My name is Olivia Carter, and I'm 31 years old. If you'd asked me a year ago what the happiest day of my life would be, I would have pointed to the calendar hanging on our kitchen wall. Every square leading up to our wedding was filled with handwritten reminders: final dress fitting cake, tasting florist, appointment seating chart. My fiancé Ethan Brooks was 28, and after 3 years together, I truly believed we'd built the kind of relationship people spent their whole lives searching for. He had proposed beneath a canopy of autumn leaves in the city park where we'd had our first date. I still remembered how his hands trembled as he opened the ring box and asked me to marry him. I cried before I could even answer. It felt so genuine, so certain, or at least that's what I thought. By the beginning of that summer, nearly every wedding expense had already been paid. Between the venue, photographer, florist, catering, music, invitations, and countless smaller costs, we'd spent almost $28,000. Friends joked that we were finally in the stressful countdown every engaged couple survived. I laughed with them. Inside, I felt nothing but excitement. That illusion lasted until a quiet Saturday night. Dinner had been simple, homemade pasta, garlic bread, and a bottle of wine we'd been saving. We carried our glasses into the living room and curled up on opposite ends of the couch while discussing final wedding details. Ethan had finished about 3 glasses over 2 hours. Relaxed, slightly flushed, comfortable enough to lower whatever guard he'd been carrying. Then he looked at me differently. His smile faded. "Liv," he said softly, "can I tell you something?" The way he said it tightened every muscle in my body. People don't begin life-changing conversations that way unless something terrible follows. I set my glass down. "Of course." He stared into his wine for several seconds. "I think, before we get married, I need to be completely honest with you." My heartbeat slowed instead of speeding up. It was the strange calm that arrives before disaster. "What is it?" He took a long breath. "You remember my ex, Vanessa?" I nodded. I'd only heard her name a handful of times during our relationship. He'd always described the breakup as mutual, something from years ago that simply hadn't worked out. No big story, he'd once said. I believed him. "What about her?" His fingers tightened around his wine glass. "I wasn't completely honest about that relationship. I waited. I loved her." The room suddenly felt much quieter. "I mean," he continued, "I was really in love with her. I wanted to marry her." I said nothing. She didn't. His voice carried an old sadness I'd never heard before. She wanted to focus on her career. She traveled constantly. Marriage wasn't important to her. He looked up. "So eventually, it ended." I simply nodded. "So," he smiled. It wasn't a guilty smile. It was almost relieved. "Then, I met you." Again, I waited. "You were everything she wasn't." He leaned closer, as though he expected me to feel complimented. "You were kind, stable, ready to build a family. You wanted commitment, kids, a real future." Every sentence felt strangely uncomfortable. I couldn't explain why. He continued. "And honestly," he laughed softly, "I'm really grateful things didn't work out with Vanessa." My shoulders relaxed slightly. Maybe this conversation wasn't what I'd feared. Then he destroyed everything. Because my backup plan ended up being exactly what I needed. Silence. I honestly wondered whether I'd heard him correctly. "My what?" "My backup plan." He smiled wider. "I mean, life worked out perfectly." I stared at him. He kept talking. "If Vanessa had wanted to marry me, we never would have broken up." He chuckled. "But since that didn't happen, I found you." He reached for my hand. "And honestly, you've been amazing." Amazing. The word echoed in my head. Not beloved, not irreplaceable, not the love of his life. Amazing. Like a dependable investment. Like the safe option after the exciting one disappeared. He squeezed my fingers. "I wanted you to know the truth before we got married." He actually looked proud of himself, as though honesty automatically erased cruelty. I didn't respond. 10 long seconds passed. Then, I quietly stood. He looked confused. I walked into the kitchen. filled his wine glass, returned, handed it back to him. Thank you. His face brightened instantly. Really, thank you for being honest. Relief flooded his expression. I knew you'd understand. I smiled politely. Oh, I understand perfectly. He laughed. I was nervous you'd take it the wrong way. I only have one question. Anything. I looked directly into his eyes. If Vanessa knocked on this door tomorrow, his smile weakened. And she told you she'd made a mistake. His fingers stopped moving, and she wanted another chance. The room became silent again. Would you leave with her? He blinked. No. I interrupted gently. It's actually very simple. He looked away. Olivia. Would you... A full minute seemed to pass. Finally, he whispered. We're getting married. That's not what I asked. He swallowed. I've committed to you. Still not an answer. His breathing became heavier. It's complicated. There it was. The truth hidden inside his silence. If the answer had been no, he would have said no immediately. Instead, he hesitated. That hesitation ended our future long before anything else happened. I nodded once. Thank you. He frowned. For what? For answering. I didn't. You did. I walked into our bedroom, returned carrying my laptop, opened it on the coffee table. He watched with growing confusion. What are you doing? I searched for the wedding venue's number. Dialed. Hello, I said calmly. I need to cancel a wedding reservation. Ethan's eyes widened. Olivia. I raised one finger without looking at him. Yes, I understand the deposit isn't refundable. Pause. That's fine. Another pause. Please cancel everything. When I hung up, I immediately called the caterer. Then the photographer. Then the florist. Each conversation lasted only minutes. Each cancellation made Ethan paler. By the fourth call, he was standing. Are you serious? I calmly dialed the DJ. He grabbed the edge of the coffee table. You're canceling our wedding. I looked up. You told me I was your backup plan. I didn't mean... You literally called me your backup plan. I meant everything worked out. It did. I nodded. For me? He stared. What? I learned who you really wanted. Ethan's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. You're seriously ending everything over one badly worded sentence. One sentence didn't end this. I closed my laptop. The truth behind it did. He began pacing across the living room, dragging both hands through his hair. I was trying to tell you that I'm grateful I met you. No. You were telling me that I became available after the woman you truly wanted rejected the future you offered her. That was years ago, and yet you still couldn't say you'd reject her today. His mouth opened, but no answer came. Again. That silence hurt more than his confession. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. I love you, Olivia. You love the life I offered you. That's not fair. Neither is asking me to stand at an altar while wondering whether you would abandon me if Vanessa changed her mind. He stepped closer and reached for my hands. I moved them behind my back. The smallest gesture, but it seemed to frighten him more than my anger would have. Please, he whispered. Don't do this tonight. We've both been drinking. Let's sleep, wake up and talk when we're calm. I am calm. That's what scares me. For the first time, he understood that I wasn't trying to punish him. I was done. I looked toward the hallway. You should stay with your parents for a few days. His face collapsed. You're kicking me out. This condo belongs to me. I bought it before we met. And right now, I need space. This is my home too. It was going to be... He stared at me, as though I had slapped him. Then the begging started. He said the wine had made him careless. He said backup plan wasn't the right phrase. He claimed Vanessa had only been his first choice once, a long time ago, before he knew what real commitment looked like. But every explanation created another contradiction. If Vanessa no longer mattered, why had he hesitated? If I was truly the love of his life, why had he described me as the successful outcome of her rejection? And if his confession was meant to make me feel secure, why did I suddenly feel like a substitute wearing another woman's wedding ring? He packed a bag just before midnight. At the front door, he turned around. You'll regret doing this so fast. I held his gaze. I would regret marrying you more." He left. The lock clicked behind him. For several minutes, I stood in the entryway without moving. Then, I returned to the living room. His wine glass was still on the coffee table, half full. The apartment looked exactly the same, yet everything inside it felt contaminated. The couch where we had chosen wedding invitations, the kitchen where we had argued over cabinet colors for a future house, the framed engagement photo on the shelf. In the picture, Ethan was looking at the camera. I was looking at him. That detail had never bothered me before. Now it felt like a warning I had missed. I stayed awake until nearly 3 a.m. I replayed every moment of our relationship, searching for evidence that I had always been competing with a woman who wasn't there. There had been small things. Ethan once said he preferred women with darker hair, then quickly added that my blonde hair suited me. He had taken me to a coastal town for our anniversary and seemed oddly distant near one particular restaurant. Later, I remembered that Vanessa's social media once showed photographs from that same town. At the time, I had dismissed it. Love makes detectives of us only after trust dies. Sunday morning arrived bright and cruel. I woke after barely 2 hours of sleep, with a clarity that surprised me. I called my attorney. By noon, she had begun drafting a formal letter, ending the engagement and clarifying ownership of the condo and shared belongings. Then I called my friend Grace, who worked in real estate. "I need to sell the condo." She was silent for a moment. "The wedding is in 2 months. "There isn't going to be a wedding." She came over that afternoon. I told her everything. When I repeated Ethan's words, her professional composure disappeared. "He called you his backup plan." Smiling. "And when you asked about the ex, he couldn't say no." Grace looked around the apartment and exhaled slowly. "I'll help you sell." By Sunday evening, photographs had been scheduled, a listing price discussed, and the engagement had officially ended. I lost approximately $18,000 in non-refundable deposits. It hurt, but not as much as imagining the financial and emotional cost of divorce 5 years later after Vanessa finally returned. I thought the worst part was over. I was wrong. Monday morning, Ethan's mother called. I nearly ignored it but answered, because some part of me still believed adults could discuss painful things rationally. Her first sentence destroyed that hope. "What is this nonsense about canceling the wedding?" "Good morning to you too, Diane. My son is devastated. Your son told me I was his backup plan. He had been drinking. He had 3 glasses of wine over 2 hours. He didn't mean it. He used those exact words." Diane sighed as though I were a difficult child. "Olivia, men compare women. Everyone compares options before settling down. I'm aware people compare. Then why are you behaving like this?" "Because comparing past relationships is normal. Telling your fiancé she was selected after your preferred woman rejected you is not. He chose you. After Vanessa chose something else. That doesn't matter now. It mattered enough that he couldn't say he would reject her if she came back." Silence. Then, Diane's voice hardened. "You're throwing away 4 years because your pride is hurt." "No. I'm refusing to spend the rest of my life questioning whether my husband secretly wishes another woman had said yes." "You'll regret this." Ethan said the same thing. I ended the call. His father called the next day. Robert was calmer. That almost made the conversation harder. "Olivia," he said, "I know my son made a serious mistake. It wasn't only a mistake, it was a revelation. 4 years together deserves more than one conversation." I gave him a direct opportunity to reassure me, and he froze. "Yes," Robert exhaled. He was caught off guard. So was I when he called me a backup plan. I still knew exactly how I felt. "The wedding is close. Everything is already arranged." "Was arranged? You canceled all of it?" "Yes. That is an enormous financial loss. Less expensive than marrying the wrong person." He became quiet. I almost felt sorry for him. "Sir," I continued, "I would fight for someone who loved me, but made a mistake. I won't fight to convince someone that I should rank above the woman he actually wanted." Robert didn't agree, but at least he stopped arguing. Wednesday afternoon, the receptionist at my office called my desk. "There's a woman downstairs asking for you. She says she's Ethan's sister." I closed my eyes. "I'll come down." His older sister, Madison, was waiting in the lobby. She looked exhausted. You need to speak to him. I've spoken to him. He isn't eating. I'm sorry to hear that. He barely sleeps. He keeps saying he ruined his life. He did damage our future. He apologized. An apology doesn't change his answer. Madison folded her arms. What more do you want? The question stung because the answer was painfully simple. I wanted to marry a man who wanted me from the beginning. He does want you. He wanted Vanessa first. That was before you. And apparently part of him still wants her now. You don't know that. I asked him. He couldn't deny it. Madison looked away. Her anger weakened. He says he was confused. Then he shouldn't be getting married. She shook her head. You're being selfish. I almost laughed. Instead, I spoke quietly. Maybe I am thinking about him too. Ethan deserves the chance to discover whether he truly loves me or whether he just loves the safety I represent. And I deserve a man who doesn't need months of therapy to decide whether I'm preferable to his ex-girlfriend. Madison had no answer. She left angry, but less certain. Thursday evening, Grace called. Her voice sounded strange. I heard something you should know. My stomach tightened. What? Vanessa is back in town. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. Grace continued carefully. She contacted Ethan yesterday. I gripped the phone, and he told her he was engaged. I should have felt relieved. Instead, a colder question entered my mind. Did he tell her the engagement was over? Grace hesitated. No. What did he say? That you two are taking a break. The last fragile thread of sympathy I had for Ethan snapped. He still believed my decision wasn't real. He believed I was an obstacle to negotiate, not a woman who had ended the relationship. I texted him immediately. For the record, we are not taking a break. The engagement is permanently over. Stop telling people otherwise. His reply arrived within seconds. We need to talk. Please let me come home. I stared at the word home, then typed, It is no longer your home. There is nothing left to discuss. His next message came quickly. Vanessa means nothing to me. I told her I'm engaged. I responded, You're not engaged. And telling her that you are only proves you still care what she thinks. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I made one mistake. I placed my phone face down. No, he had made a choice. Now I was making mine. Friday morning, I woke to violent pounding on my front door. For one confused second, I thought something terrible had happened. Then Ethan shouted my name. Olivia, please open the door. The clock read 6:07 a.m. I stayed in bed and opened the security camera app on my phone. He stood in the hallway wearing yesterday's clothes. His hair was uncombed, his face pale, and his eyes swollen from either crying or not sleeping. Liv, I know you're in there. I pressed the speaker button. You need to leave. His head snapped toward the camera. Please. Just 5 minutes. No. I love you. You should have remembered that before calling me your backup plan. I said it wrong. You meant it clearly enough. He stepped closer to the camera. I talked to Vanessa because she contacted me. That's all. I told her I was engaged because I didn't know how to explain what happened. You could have told her the truth. I didn't want her thinking she caused this. She didn't cause it. You did. He pressed both hands against the door. We can fix this. There is no we. His expression changed. For the first time, sadness gave way to anger. You can't erase 4 years overnight. I didn't. You changed the meaning of those 4 years in one conversation. That's dramatic. And showing up at 6 a.m. after I told you not to come here is harassment. His eyes widened. Harassment. I'm your fiancé. Ex-fiancé. I began dialing the police. He heard the keypad tones through the speaker. You wouldn't call the police on me. I'm already calling. He stared directly into the camera, finally understanding I was serious. Then he backed away. You've changed, he said bitterly. No. I finally listened. He left before the call connected. For the rest of the day, messages poured in. You're throwing everything away. I made one mistake. Nobody will love you the way I do. Vanessa has nothing to do with this. You're punishing me because your ego is bruised. The last message almost made me laugh. My ego hadn't canceled the wedding. My self-respect had. By Saturday, Several mutual friends had joined the campaign. One created a group message titled, "Please hear Ethan out." I left immediately. Another friend, Claire, called. "He says you won't even let him apologize properly." "He has apologized." "Then why not try counseling?" "Because counseling can repair communication. It cannot make me his first choice retroactively. Everyone has doubts before marriage." He didn't express doubt. He expressed preference. Claire fell silent. I explained exactly what he had said and how he had reacted when I asked whether he would return to Vanessa. Her tone softened. "When you put it that way, it sounds worse." "It doesn't sound worse." "It is worse." After that, most of our friends stopped contacting me. A few privately admitted they would have ended the engagement too. Sunday, Grace took me to see apartments. I wanted something smaller, quieter, and far enough away that no familiar street corner could surprise me with a memory. The third apartment was on the 5th floor of a renovated brick building near a small park. It had 1-bedroom tall windows and a narrow balcony overlooking maple trees. There was no room for the dining table Ethan and I had chosen together. That felt like an advantage. I applied that afternoon. Monday morning I was approved. Tuesday I signed the lease. Somehow, Ethan found out before I had told anyone except Grace and my parents. His call came that evening from an unfamiliar number. "You're moving." I nearly hung up. "How did you get this number?" "It's my coworker's phone." "You blocked me. For a reason." "You're selling our home and moving without discussing it with me." "My home. My decision." "What about us?" "There is no us." "Stop saying that. Reality doesn't change because you dislike hearing it." His breathing sharpened. I apologized. "I told you Vanessa doesn't matter. You also told her we were still engaged." "Because I'm trying to protect what we have." "You're trying to protect the version of the story where I eventually forgive you." "We belong together." "No, Ethan. You believed we were convenient together." He started crying. I could hear him trying to hide it. "I don't know who I am without you." For a moment, compassion nearly weakened me. Then I remembered sitting across from him while he smiled and called me his backup plan. "You need to figure that out without me." I ended the call. Wednesday evening, my doorbell camera alerted me again. Ethan stood outside with his parents. I watched them argue quietly in the hallway before Robert knocked. "Olivia," he called. "We need to speak like adults." Against my better judgment, I opened the door but kept the security chain fastened. "What can I do for you?" Diane stepped forward immediately. "You can stop humiliating our son." "I haven't spoken publicly about him." "You canceled the wedding. You're selling the condo. Everyone knows. Those are consequences, not humiliation." "He made a mistake," she snapped. "You're being vindictive." "He told me I was his consolation prize." He was emotional. He was relaxed and smiling. Robert raised a hand. "Let's all calm down." Ethan stood behind them, watching me, with red-rimmed eyes. Robert continued, "Sometimes, people say difficult things to test whether their partner truly loves them." I actually laughed. So now it was a test. Ethan's gaze dropped. "That's not what he told me." Diane crossed her arms. Maybe he needed reassurance. A man who tests his fiancé by telling her she is second choice is not ready for marriage. Ethan moved closer. "I'll do anything." I looked at him. "Anything?" "Yes. Therapy. Counseling. I'll cut off Vanessa. I'll delete social media. Whatever you want. I want to be someone's first choice." "You are." "No. I became your choice when she refused you." His face tightened. "That was before I knew you." "Then why couldn't you say no when I asked if you'd go back?" I was shocked. "You were honest." He reached toward the opening in the door. "I choose you now." That word matters less when it arrives after consequences. His mother shook her head. "You're impossible." "No. I'm finished." Robert tried one last argument. "Think about the time invested. 4 years. The memories. The wedding plans. That is sunk cost thinking. Time already spent is not a reason to spend the rest of my life unhappy." Ethan's voice broke. "So that's it." I met his eyes. "Yes." A long silence followed. He looked at me as though he were waiting for hesitation. There was none. Finally, Robert placed a hand on his son's shoulder and guided him away. Diane muttered something under her breath. Ethan remained in the hallway until his father called his name again. Then he left. I closed the door, locked it, and for the first time since that Saturday night, I didn't feel devastated. I felt relieved. 6 weeks later, I was living in my new apartment. The condo had sold quickly at the asking price. Most of the furniture was gone. The wedding dress remained sealed in a garment bag at my mother's house because I still couldn't decide whether to sell it or burn it. One Friday, Grace invited me to a small dinner party. I almost declined. The thought of smiling politely at strangers exhausted me, but she refused to accept no. That evening, I met Daniel Hayes. He was 29, worked as a high school history teacher, and had the kind of calm confidence that never demanded attention. We started talking about a novel lying on the host's coffee table, then movies, then travel, then childhood stories. By the time I checked the clock, nearly 3 hours had passed. He asked for my number, without performing confidence he didn't feel. "I'd like to continue this conversation," he said. It was simple, honest, easy. Our first coffee lasted 2 hours. Our second became dinner. On the third, he mentioned the breakup. "Grace told me what happened," he said carefully. I braced for pity. Instead, he shook his head. "Anyone who makes you feel like a backup plan is an idiot." I looked down at my coffee. I thought I was overhearing that phrase. "Sorry. No, it's not you." Daniel leaned back. "For what it's worth, I'm here because I wanted to see you again, not because somebody else said no." Something inside me loosened. Over the next few weeks, coffee turned into museum visits, weekend walks, and late-night phone calls. Nothing was rushed. Nothing felt like a replacement. By the 4th week, we agreed we were officially dating. Then I posted one photograph. Daniel and I were sitting across from each other at a restaurant, both laughing at something Grace had said behind the camera. No caption, no declaration, just happiness. Within an hour, Ethan called from 3 different numbers, then 5, then 7. His voicemail arrived just after midnight. "Who is he? Olivia, call me. We were together 4 years and you replaced me in 6 weeks. How can you do this to me?" I listened once, then deleted it. He had called me his backup plan. Now he was furious that I had stopped waiting in reserve. The next morning, Ethan's sister texted me from a number I didn't recognize. "Really classy, Olivia. Flaunting another man while my brother is barely functioning." I stared at the message for a long moment before responding. "We ended 6 weeks ago. I'm single. I'm allowed to move forward." Her reply arrived immediately. "You clearly never loved him, if you can replace him this quickly." I felt something inside me harden. I loved him enough to want an honest marriage. He made it clear that I was never his first choice. I found someone who chooses me without hesitation. Madison didn't answer. By lunchtime, Ethan's mother had called my mother. That was a new level of desperation. My mother phoned me afterward, sounding more amused than angry. "Diane says you've replaced her son." "I didn't replace him." That's what I told her. "What exactly did you say?" "I said her son informed my daughter that she was his backup plan, so my daughter wisely stopped reserving herself for him." Despite everything, I laughed. "Mom, what, it's accurate." She probably hated that. She didn't have much to say afterward. My mother's voice softened. "I'm glad you posted that picture. You are. Yes, you looked happy. Don't let them convince you that healing is betrayal." I carried those words with me for the rest of the day. Tuesday evening, the front desk of my apartment building called. "There's a man in the lobby asking for you," the security guard said. "He says he's your fiancé." My stomach dropped. "His name is Ethan Brooks." "Yes, he's my ex-fiancé. Please ask him to leave. He's insisting that you're having a misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding. He says he needs 5 minutes. I don't want to speak to him. If he refuses to leave, call the police." Through the intercom, I heard shouting begin in the lobby. Ethan's voice echoed faintly. "She's confused. We're working things out." The security guard returned to the phone. "We're escorting him outside." "Thank you." I stood by my apartment door until the elevator stopped moving. Minutes later, Ethan began calling from another unknown number. I blocked it without listening. Wednesday, Daniel showed me a message Ethan had sent him through social media. "She's not over me. She's using you to make me jealous. We're going to get back together eventually. She always comes back when she calms down. I felt physically ill. I'm sorry, I said. Daniel looked at me. Why are you apologizing? Because you shouldn't have to deal with this. He's the one behaving badly, not you. What did you say? Daniel handed me his phone. Your relationship ended because you called her your backup plan. She has been clear that she does not want contact. Respect that. Ethan had replied. She's lying to you. I never said that. She twists everything. Daniel's final message was simple. Multiple people confirmed what happened. Do not contact me again. Then he blocked him. I looked at Daniel across the dinner table. You believe me. I never doubted you. The certainty in his voice affected me more deeply than any grand declaration could have. Ethan had spent years making me feel chosen while secretly comparing me to Vanessa. Daniel had known me only a few weeks and still trusted my word without making me defend it. Thursday morning, Ethan called my workplace. The receptionist transferred him before realizing who it was. Olivia. I closed my eyes. You need to stop calling me. Who is he? That is none of your business. You're dating him already. Yes. His breathing changed. That's not fair. Fair? We were supposed to get married. You told me I was your backup plan. I apologized. And I accepted that you were sorry. That doesn't mean I owe you another relationship. He isn't better than me. I looked out the office window. He doesn't see me as second choice. That makes him better for me. I hung up and told reception never to transfer Ethan's calls again. Friday night, Daniel and I had dinner at a quiet Italian restaurant. For the first time in days, I relaxed. Halfway through dessert, Daniel looked past me. His expression changed. I turned. Ethan was walking directly toward our table. He looked thinner than before, but his eyes were sharp with anger. We need to talk. I stood immediately. No. You need to leave. I'm not leaving until you hear me out. Daniel remained seated calm but alert. There is nothing left to say, I told Ethan. He looked at Daniel. So this is him. Daniel stood slowly. Ethan laughed bitterly. She's using you. Daniel didn't respond. A restaurant manager approached. Is there a problem? Ethan pointed at me. She's my fiancé. She's here with another man. Ex-fiancé, I corrected. He has been harassing me for weeks. The manager turned to Ethan. Sir, I'm going to ask you to leave. I just need 5 minutes. You need to leave now. Ethan's face crumpled. He began crying loudly, accusing me of cheating, saying I had destroyed his life, saying Daniel had stolen me. Other diners stared. I felt humiliated, but beneath that humiliation was something colder. Fear. The manager called security. As they escorted Ethan toward the door, he twisted around and shouted, You'll come back when you realize he can't love you like I do. Daniel watched him disappear. Then he looked at me. That was intense. I'm so sorry. Stop apologizing for him. We finished dinner, though neither of us had much appetite left. Outside, I found the word cheater carved across the driver's side of my car. The damage ran from the front door to the rear panel. My knees weakened. Daniel caught my arm. Don't touch anything. I photographed the damage and called the police. The responding officer listened carefully while I explained the unwanted visits, repeated calls, social media messages, workplace harassment, and restaurant confrontation. This has been escalating, she said. Yes, you should consider a restraining order. Until that moment, part of me had resisted the idea. A restraining order felt extreme. Then I looked at the word scratched into my car. So did canceling my wedding once, I said quietly. Until it became necessary. The damage cost approximately $2,100. Insurance covered most of it after the deductible. Saturday morning, I met with my attorney. We documented everything. Doorbell footage, call logs, voicemails, messages from unknown numbers, the apartment security report, Daniel's screenshots, the police report from the vandalism. My attorney reviewed the evidence and nodded. You have a strong case. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. A process server delivered the paperwork to Ethan on Sunday. That night, he called from another new number. I didn't answer. His voicemail began with sobbing. A restraining order. Olivia, are you serious? I'm trying to fight for us. I deleted it. He wasn't fighting for us. He was fighting against my right to leave. The hearing took place 2 weeks later. Ethan arrived with his parents and an attorney. His lawyer attempted to portray the situation as an emotional misunderstanding between former partners. My attorney presented the pattern: repeated unwanted contact, appearances at my home and workplace, contacting Daniel, public confrontation, property damage. The judge studied the documents, then looked directly at Ethan. "Mr. Brooks, why did you continue contacting Miss Carter after she told you to stop?" Ethan shifted in his seat. "Because we needed closure. She ended the relationship, correct?" "Yes, but..." "And she asked you not to contact her?" "Yes." "You contacted her repeatedly anyway." I wanted to explain. "You appeared at her home." "Yes." "Her workplace." "I only called." "You contacted her new partner." "I was warning him." "You appeared at a restaurant and created a disturbance." Ethan's face reddened. "I was upset." "And her vehicle was damaged immediately afterward." His lawyer stood. "There is no direct video evidence showing my client causing the damage." The judge looked at the police report. "There is enough context to support a credible fear of continued harassment." Ethan suddenly spoke. "She moved on too fast." The judge's expression hardened. "That is not a legal excuse. She was going to marry me. She is no longer required to." The restraining order was granted for 1 year. No direct contact, no indirect contact, no appearances at my home workplace or social events. Ethan burst into tears. His mother stood in the gallery and shouted that I had ruined her son's life. The judge warned her that another interruption would result in contempt. I walked out of the courthouse without looking back. 3 months after I ended, the engagement life finally became quiet. The condo sale gave me enough profit for a down payment on a small house closer to work. It wasn't luxurious, but it was peaceful. Daniel helped me paint the living room, though he somehow managed to get more paint on himself than on the walls. We continued taking things slowly. There were no dramatic promises, no pressure, just consistency. He called when he said he would. He listened. He never compared me to anyone. He chose me in 100 ordinary ways. Through mutual friends, I heard Ethan's life had unraveled. He contacted Vanessa again. She rejected him. She was in a serious relationship and had no interest in revisiting the past. Apparently, Ethan took that badly. He moved back in with his parents and began therapy. Part of me felt sorry for him. But sympathy didn't erase consequences. Weeks later, his lawyer contacted mine. "My client wishes to apologize and seek closure." My attorney responded, "A restraining order is in place. No contact means no contact. Your client should seek closure through therapy." That was the end. The wedding that never happened would have taken place the following weekend. I expected the date to destroy me. Instead, Daniel took me to a baseball game. We ate terrible stadium food, argued playfully about a referee's call, and laughed until my cheeks hurt. At one point, Daniel looked at me and asked, "Do you ever wish you had gone through with it?" I considered the question honestly. No, not even a little. I regret the years I spent believing something that wasn't true. But I don't regret leaving when I learned the truth. He nodded. "You know what I admire about you." "What?" "You didn't beg anyone to choose you." I looked toward the field. "I almost did for 4 years. I just didn't realize it." Daniel took my hand. "You'll never have to do that with me." I looked at him. There was no performance in his expression. No calculation. No ghost standing between us. "Because you're my first choice," he said. That was all I had ever wanted. Not to be someone's backup plan. Not to be the safe option after a more exciting woman said no. Not to spend my marriage wondering whether another person's return could erase me. I lost $18,000 in wedding deposits. Another $4,000 disappeared into moving costs, legal fees, repairs, and starting over. I would pay it all again. Because the moment Ethan called me his backup plan, the relationship ended. Everything afterward was only paperwork. Some people still believed I overreacted. They said 4 years shouldn't be destroyed by one sentence. But it wasn't one sentence. It was the truth inside it. I didn't want a relationship where I had to campaign for first place. I wanted a partner, not a man. I had to repeatedly convince that I was worth choosing. Ethan may always see himself as the victim, a man who made one mistake and lost everything. But he didn't lose me because he spoke carelessly. He lost me because he revealed how he truly saw me. I believed him, and for the first time, I chose myself. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not waiting for revenge. I don't celebrate his pain. I'm simply free. Free from comparison. Free from doubt. Free from being anyone's consolation prize. Being alone would have been better than living as someone's second choice. But I wasn't alone. I found a man who chose me without needing another woman to reject him first. That wasn't revenge. That was the victory.